Shalom friends, welcome back to this week's installation of a Biselleh Torah. V-ethanan is the name of the parsha that we're reading this week, the second parsha in the book of Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy, which falls directly after this year, Tisha B'Av, one of the most dismal, dark days on the Jewish calendar, when we remember the destruction of the first as well as the second temples on this day. We recall, too, that God doomed the Israelites to walk in the desert for 40 years because of their disbelief in the promise. On this day, too, we also recall the hopeful rise of the Bar Kokhba rebellion, which was ultimately put down about 135 of the Common Era. So many other terrible tragedies occurred during this day. And now we turn our mind to more happy thoughts, to more positive thoughts. V-ethanan means, and I poured out my heart. These words come from Moses' throat. V-ethanan, I poured out my heart, what is most deep and dear, from my innermost self to you, God. The word V-ethanan has the root chanan, which means mercy, that I have called upon the most merciful aspect of my soulful self and placed them before your heavenly altar, God. V-ethanan is spontaneous prayer, so indicates the Ishbitzer Rebbe, that this is maybe the highest form of prayer, that when we can spontaneously pray about the things that we want, the things that we need, egoless prayers that are far more powerful because they are altruistic in content. These are the prayers that Moses begins to utter even as he says this first word, V-ethanan. I poured out my heart before you, God. What would you say if you knew, not thought, nor believed? What would you say if you knew that you were standing before God? What are the most holy prayers that you would ask for? Win the lottery? A car that doesn't break down? A relationship that doesn't become dissolute? What is it that you want most of all in the world? If that which you could utter before God would be said in a moment when there was great intimacy between you and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that would be the truest prayer, and probably jettisoning all of those things in the physical realm that we desire just in a moment. Hanina ben Dosa makes the observation in the Talmud. He says, Im shugura b'fiv, which means when we pray and we don't hesitate, we don't stumble upon the words, but rather they simply flow from the heart. That is the truest measure of a real prayer. We have a prayer book that contains many different words, many different ideas that emanate from sages throughout the epochs. Some of them resonate, some of them do not. But which are the truest prayers for you? Again, the challenge that I'm suggesting that we each ask of ourselves today is, if there's one prayer that we would ever say, or say now before God, what would that prayer be? And then it takes the form of V-ethanan. I opened up my heart before you, God. Shabbat Shalom.